welcome to all of you. I hope that you're all doing fine. Welcome to this Master Day. Okay, peculiar one, of course, because we are on Zoom, but I hope that, I do my best to convey, the most important information. So do not hesitate to interrupt at any time, okay? Just unmute your mic and shout so that and ask a question, okay? Do not hesitate because I won't have time to read the chat. So please do not hesitate to just unmute and ask your question, interrupt at any time. I'm super happy to answer your question, okay? So welcome to all of you. I'm Jérémy Laurent Luchetti. I'm the director of the MSc in economics. I'm an economist here at the University of Geneva, working mostly on environmental economics and political economics. So I'm working on the economics of conflict, okay? But of course, it's a whole team of many professors. So what's the MSc in economics about? So basically, what we do in this MSc in economics is teaching you all the tools so that you're able to research and answer some, fundamental questions, such as, are there any gains from opening up to international trade? What are the drivers of income inequalities? How can we minimize the economic effect of recent crises? Okay, can we say that lockdowns works are better for the economies than no lockdown, for example, the kind of questions that economists tackle at the moment. Okay, can education policies be successful? Or can we improve the lives of the very poor? What kind of policies can we implement to curb climate change? What are the effects of climatic fluctuation on society and the economics? And many more. Okay, here just took a sample of questions that we research as professors at the economic department and that students during the master thesis tackled. Okay, just a subsample of the kind of topics that we care about, that we teach and that we address. Okay. So the thing is that in economics, for this master in economics, the key point is the rigorous training in data science and econometrics. Okay, because what we do in economics, I mean, most of you, I'm sure you had some background, at least some background in economics. You know that what we do is that we formulate some behavioral model that we take to the data through econometrics technique. Okay, so the idea is to have a model that explains what we observe. Okay, if the model doesn't fit with what we observe, then basically we change the model. So the idea is basically we try to establish some causal links between policies and outcome. Okay, the idea here is that ideally we'd like to base our policy interventions on hard evidence. Okay, we don't want to base our our model on belief only. We want to test this belief using the data, and that I believe the key distinction of what we do in a master in economics. So we do a lot of work on the empirical side, so data management and how to do some proper inference with data, but based on behavioral model. So it's not statistics in that dimension because it's really a social science. We are a social science. Okay. The behavioral model and we take it to the data. So it takes both skills from a social science point of view, but also from the the empirical point of view. Okay, so that's the defining point of what we will do here. Okay. So I think before going into more details, into the structure of the program and the type of classes that we have and stuff like that, I believe that the easiest way to understand what I mean by this causal inference and data management and this focus on data is to look at example. Okay, so what I propose that just in we propose two type of papers that are exactly the type of research that we are doing at the University of Geneva here in the Master in Economics, and exactly the kind of papers that we address during our classes and that you will do for your master thesis. Okay. So the first kind of topic that we care about is the impact of pollution. Okay, we know that economic activity is polluting a lot. That is known for a long time, and that clearly economic activity is part of the problem when we think about pollution and environmental quality. And we also know that environmental quality has a high impact on our society. So the question is, what is the magnitude of this impact? Okay, and what kind of pollution should we care about? Okay, so this paper, for example, is a paper by Ebenstein and co-authors in the PNAS, a bunch of economists looking at some kind of evidence of what is the impact of sustained exposure to air pollution on life expectancy. Okay, focusing on China. So what they do is basically they use a very interesting policy experiment, totally the kind of things that we do a lot in economics, using some natural experiments or policy experiments that is done in the world to try to see the impact of these policies on important outcome. And here, for example, is in China, it's the Chinese Huai River policy, which basically provides some free and heavily subsidized coal for indoor heating during the winter to cities just north of the river. So basically the idea is that if you're a city north of the river, then basically you are given some coal for free almost, okay? But south of the river, this subsidy is not present anymore. So of course, people which are just north of the river use a lot of coal, while people south of the river do not use a lot of coal, okay? But apart from this very specific policy, it's very likely that this is very similar villages and similar villagers, so we can compare them because just live north and south from a river. Okay. So the idea is basically to simply look at the effect of this policy on life expectancy. So the fact that you have coal usage or not, using some the quasi-experimental variation in the concentration of some pollutants, so PM10 here. Okay. So, in a way, if you look at the China, so that the river, you can see that that's the river in question. So the use of that the PM10 concentration north of the river is far higher than the concentration south of the river. Okay, so certainly this policy of subsidizing coal had a high impact on PM10 concentration. Okay, but everything else apart, the villages just, very close to the river are very similar. It's the same size of villages, same composition, same average income. So everything is very similar. We can really compare these villages one with the other. The only difference being, this coal subsidy. Of course, the objective of the coal subsidy is to provide people with an easy way to heat indoor. Okay, but it may have a very negative externalities, of course. So what you see, okay, that's basically here you have the degrees north of so here we have the south of the river, here it's north of the river, and what you can see, and here we measure the concentration of these particulate matter levels. So it's typically the kind of empirical analysis that we do in economics. This is what we call a regression discontinuity design. Okay, so we look at the effect on a specific outcome here at pollution based on some discontinuity. And what you can see, so following this economic study, is that as you get close to the river, you have an increase in the usage of coal, because of course it's colder and colder as you go north, but you have a sharp discontinuous increase in the concentration of PM10 just north of the river, just due certainly to the use of this very specific subsidy, these policies that subsidize coal. Okay, so the policy had a huge impact on the particular matter concentration. Okay, so what is the effect on life expectancy? As this is actually quite high. Okay, here we measure life expectancy, and once again you have the same the same closeness to this river. You see that life expectancy is around 76, 77, 8 years old, just south of the river. As you go north of the river, you have a sharp discontinuous jump down, and basically you have the life expectancy is 3 years lower. Even so, the villages here and here are very, very similar, but because they're very, very close to each other. The only difference is the policy in terms of coal subsidy, and it's basically the impact of pollution on health. Okay, so the subsidy to coal was associated to basically a reduction in life expectancy by 3 years. Okay, it's very difficult to find a policy with such a huge impact on life expectancy. Okay, and of course it's so air pollution matters for health, but by a big amount. Okay, so it's actually higher than what most people expected, and these included. Okay, it's 3 years is really a big impact. Okay, so this subsidizing coal was basically, an unintended effect, and this is exactly what economics is about. Economics is about trying to identify potential causal effect of some policies, and trying to tease out if it's efficient or not to pursue these policies. Okay, and then do some inference. So that's the first example, kind of topics that we study in class. And we learn these regression techniques, how to fit these polynomials. We learn how to manage this data. So you will acquire all these skill set by yourself so that you can use it by yourself. Because for an economist, developing your critical thinking means being able to handle the tools that allow you to construct an argument by yourself, and especially an empirical argument. Either to critique results that you do not believe in, or to construct your own argument. Okay, it's very important to know how to do that by yourself, and that's what mastering economics is about. Okay, another example, just as a teaser before going into details of other the structure of the program, is this well-known study by Rajeti from Harvard and co-authors about the effect of neighborhood on child outcomes. Okay, so as you know, in sociology, but in economics as well, there is, we observe that, children's outcomes varies a lot across different neighborhoods. So if we look at, for example, at, years of schooling, income, autonomy, all these very important outcomes as an adult, of course, are impacted when you are a child. Okay, and very often, these outcomes, they vary depending on the neighborhood you grew up with. Okay, so basically, if you grew up in a poor neighborhood, your probability to be poor yourself is very high. Okay, and basically, in sociology and economics, you can find two different explanations. Is that either it's what we call sorting, so that's basically that you have some kind of natural segregation, so poor people live together and rich people live together, and that's just what we observe. Okay, it's kind of a correlation in a way. Or there is a real causal effect of neighborhood, in the sense that if you live in a place with rich people, then basically you get to know to acquire some social capital, and through connection you can acquire a better job. Okay, just because you know rich people. Okay, so there is a real causal effect of neighborhood. And of course, it's very difficult in the data to to disentangle these two different explanations. Okay, which one is true? It's it's an empirical question. So once again, it's a kind of very important model that we have in mind, coming from sociology, political science, economics, and to find the true mechanism, you need some empirical data, some empirical skills. Okay, otherwise you cannot tease out what is causal from what is a correlation. Okay. So what they did is basically in this study, and that's what you will learn how to do, is that they study 3 million families, okay, who move across different census tract, different neighborhood in observational data. And what they did in this study, and the key idea in order to tease out causality from correlation, is basically they exploit the variation in the age of the child when the family moved from one neighborhood to the other. Okay, the idea is to really try to find, if you move from a poor neighborhood to a rich neighborhood while you are really young, then basically the intuition is that you will grow up constructing your network in this rich neighborhood, and you have a high likelihood of becoming rich. Okay, or with many years of schooling, say. But if you move from this poor neighborhood to this rich neighborhood when you're older, 16 or 18 years old, then basically your network is already constructed from before, and basically you won't have a high positive impact on income if neighborhood really matters for in terms of network. Okay, that's their super simple and basic idea. So what they did is basically they look at people moving from a poor neighborhood, so Roxbury, where the average income is 23K per year. And this family were moving to Saving Hill, which is a high, rich neighborhood. And they look at people who were 2 years old when they move, okay? And you see that, the people who move from this poor neighborhood to this rich neighborhood when they were 2 years old have actually quite a high income. And their income is quite comparable to the average income in this rich neighborhood. But if people move when they're 10 years old or 20 years old, then basically their income is lower and lower. Really meaning that your neighborhood really seems to have, a direct positive effect on your income. So this is a very strong argument for mixity. So mixing rich and poor people in certain neighborhood may have a true impact in reducing inequality. Okay, this is what it means, and this is what these studies are about: is to to answer important question: what are the roots of inequalities? Here it's neighborhood and network effect matters a lot empirically. Okay, so and many other type of questions. Okay, so this what we will do in this master is study all these questions, and basically we'll teach you all the empirical skills needed to to construct this kind of model and tease out causality from correlation as best as we can with the available data. So basically you will be able to formulate some behavioral model and then test these models in the data. That's what we teach. Okay. So the idea is basically we want to train you for the international market by giving you some skills that you can use in the academic sector, but also in the private and public sectors. I'll give some example of jobs in a minute. Okay. So basically the structure is that we will want to give you an in-depth understanding of modern economics and econometrics with a keen eye to real-world issues. Okay, all professors at the Department of Economics, we all work on real-world issues. Okay, it's a development, environment, labor economics, discrimination. We are all, we care about this kind of, we believe, important modern issues. Okay. So we prepare our students with the most advanced, theoretical and empirical methods, so that you will exit this master with the state-of-the-art tools, okay, in economics and econometrics. Okay, it's a 19 credits master, and you can actually do the master in 3 semesters. Okay, in 1 year and a half. So of course you can do it in 2 years if you wish, taking more time. But if you want to do a quick master, it's a perfect. Actually, it's a perfect way to do it. In 3 semesters, you're done. Okay. So basically, we're going to have some core courses and a choice of focused electives. Okay. So the core courses basically is in economics. As you know, it's a toolbox. Okay. So economics is like a toolbox that basically you need the tools, and then with those tools you can apply these tools to answer the questions that you like. It's like music. You don't learn how to play guitar directly or piano. First, you learn some theory, you learn some tools, and then you can apply them to different instruments. It's the same with economics. So basically, the core courses are the toolbox of economics. It's going to be micro, macro, and econometrics. Okay, so duplicated. It's micro 1, micro 2, macro 1, macro 2, econometrics, and applied econometrics. Okay. With these core courses, basically, you will have all the important tools that you will need to answer questions. So with these core courses, basically, you will be autonomous. Okay, so if you care about inequality, you will know how to gather the data on inequality, how to treat this data, how to tease out, the impact of inequality or where inequality comes from, for example, or any other question you care about. So you will be autonomous in answering, questions using data based on these core courses. But of course, to help you formulate models and see many papers tackling real-world issues, we also propose some elective courses. So these elective courses, which is basically 24 credits, so it's 4 classes of 6 credits, are basically topics that we work on as a faculty and that we teach based on papers and models and recent data. So it's environmental and development economics, okay, international trade, labor, regional disparities and urban economics, big data analysis, international macro, or this kind of thing. So basically, depending on the kind of economies that you want to become, then basically you can select the electives that you care about. So if you want to work in a NGO, for example, about environment and development, then of course, taking a course on environmental and development economics, on policy evaluation, on regional disparities and urban economics will be of paramount importance for you. If you want to work in a central bank, in order to work on, in a research team, for example, then of course international macro, international trade and labor economics are going to be super important for you. Okay. So depending on your, your interests, basically this core toolbox will give you all the tools you need, and then the elective courses are going to be ways to apply these tools. And then, of course, you have one of the most important parts, which is a master thesis, which is usually done the third semester, in which basically you just select a topic that you really care about, and you apply these tools to your own topic. And it's a fantastic way to develop your own interest and your own research interest in a specific field. Okay, so this is basically how it works. So I saw quickly there is this message in the chat. So I took micro 1 and micro 2 in the bachelor. No, it's totally different. Okay, it's far more advanced classes in which you will really see state-of-the-art models that are far more advanced than the ones that you saw at the bachelor. Okay. So the faculty is basically, so this is us. So we are, a bunch of people publishing in good journals. We have many international prizes. So coming from the European Union, the SNF and the GPAL for development studies, and many others. Okay. We have many connections to the international Geneva. So the UNITAD, the WTO, the IFC, the ILO. World Bank. I personally work with the UNCCD, so working on climate change and desertification or refugees. Okay, we all have different connections to different international organizations to help you, gather data or provide contacts if you're interested in working in this kind of environment afterward. Okay. So, we have students, we are very, very international, a bunch of students. So you guys come from Europe, Africa, US, South America, Middle East, and Asia. Okay, it's a very international cohorts, and I believe it's a strength. Okay, diversity is a fantastic thing, and it really shows in our, in our cohort, in our students' body. And typically, our students place in high-rank research institution for PhDs. So it can be Tim Bergen, the SFI, Mannheim, Montreal, Geneva. So we even have students in Stanford now or Princeton doing their PhD. So it's, people following the master in Geneva can really go in good places afterward for doing research. Many of our students work in international organizations, so IFC, ILO, and UNCTAD, and many others, okay? Or private companies, so we have consultants at the Credit Suisse, Société Générale, and Deutsche Bank, for example, in the 2 last years, and public institutions. So the Swiss National Bank, the ECB, embassies. I had a student last week who just got a job at the embassy in Cuba, and the SECO, and many others, okay? So an economic degree is actually sought after because people know that you are a social scientist, so you care about important real-world issues, but you also have some data management skills and empirical skills, meaning that you can lead a team of researchers in gathering data and providing correct empirical analysis of policy evaluations. Okay, so yes, it works in the sense that it's really the kind of skills that you will develop, that you will learn in this master will have some real world application. That's what alumni tells us. Okay, so to sum it up, basically the idea is to tackle some relevant topics, so inequalities, climate, poverty, trade, development, discrimination, economic crisis, these kind of things that are very important nowadays, focusing on the evidence. Okay, the idea is to test the models using data. So, compared to statistics, for example, because of course you have also a choice of master in statistics, for example, is that in statistics you really care about the theoretical side of the estimators. Here, the idea is to learn enough of the empirics so that you can apply it. Okay, economics is a social science before everything else. So the idea is to develop these models and then bring them to the data. Okay, so you will acquire these empirical and data management skills and a deep understanding of the modern economic tools. Okay, so understanding these tools are very important because either you want to contribute to their evolution, so you want to develop these tools by yourself, or maybe you want to critique them because you disagree with some of the policy outcomes of this coming from these models. But then you have to understand how the sausage is made in a way. You have to understand how we construct these things, and the only way to do it is to study it. Okay, so what I can tell you is that it will be exciting, challenging, and certainly rewarding. Okay, our students are usually very happy. It's a difficult master in the sense that you learn, you have to learn a lot. Okay, it's challenging, but it's rewarding in the sense that you really you will come out with some really good skills, and these skills are recognized on the market afterwards. So from the public sector, in NGOs, people care about hiring good empirical economists for this reason. Okay, so this is in a nutshell, this is what we do, and this is it. You have 3 minutes left. So if ever you have some questions, please just ask me orally so that I can answer to everybody. Okay, it will be far easier. So do not hesitate to unmute your mic and ask a question if you have some questions. Please don't be shy. I had many, I had some private chat thing, and it's 3 times the same question by 3 different people. So please ask it in public so that I can answer it globally. Okay, so for example, I have this question of how much support is provided from the academic staff to the master students. So basically, as a faculty, of course, we support you in many dimensions, in the sense that, we will, one professor is going to follow your master thesis work quite closely and help you building the tools. In each class, basically, you will have assistant helping you with the seminars, and professors are usually, following students, and the assessments depend on each class. Okay, sometimes it's end of the term evaluation, and sometimes you have, like for example, in urban economics, it's a flipped classroom type of system. Okay, it's a kind of this modern teaching techniques in which you work in advance and then you discuss in group and with the professors. And basically, you end out 3 or 4 assessments during the term that helps for your assessment. So okay, it depends on the type of class that you have. Okay, so it seems that I have no questions. So I will let you go because it's 2:30. So maybe some of you want to go to different master. I will stay online for some more minutes in case you have some questions. Do not hesitate. Thank you a lot for your attention, and I hope to see you soon. Take care.